Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 17.8, The Captain and the Rangers. We are back.
Yes, day 2. We're getting closer and closer to double digits in our Aetheral Space Arc 17 chapter count. Have you thought about that? What's going to happen when you hit the big 1-0?
We're going to end the story. Shonen Jump Management has told me it's cancelled, so I have to wrap all the plot threads up.
Could you imagine if Aether got axed, you have to wrap it up now? Pandershi was the big villain.
Pandershi pops, I was like, I guess I'll take you all on right now.
I finally finished my Panacea Behemoth. Yeah, they turn into like the fucking Joker from Arkham Asylum.
It's like, then the god of Aether appears. It's like, can you defeat me, Ruth Blaine?
How insane would you let the main cast be in an Aetheral Space non-canon movie? Like, protagonists always get to use power way beyond what they use in the main series.
I would go fucking nuts. Ruth puts a set on a whole planet.
A Dragon Gemini railgunning a moon at somebody.
The final villain. It's like Dragon, you can't. That Aether's too strong. It's like that my body's breaking, but if I think back to everyone's smiles, I can't let you destroy them.
Oh, if I Gemini railgun my own body, I can make it infinitely strong.
I see. Earth's Aether is quite advanced.
Who's Aetheral Space's Dabura?
I don't know.
We need that. Anyway, let's do this. Day 2. From what Atoy Musashi understood, it was no simple task to travel between the wards of Zipan. Even for actual citizens, travel was regulated heavily. Permission was needed from Oberon to leave your ward even for a day trip, and that permission was rarely granted. For fugitives like them, it would be nearly impossible. Nearly. Hazley had drawn a curiously detailed map of Zipan in the dirt to lay out their next best moves. From Ward 8, they could proceed through the disused tram lines to get to either Ward 6 or 7. Oh no, you did that on purpose. Those tunnels had been shut down after the event that had wiped out Ward 8's population. It would be a longer trip than taking the tram, but walking the tunnels was more than possible. The only problem, then, was what they'd find on the other side. There would be a guard presence in both of the tram stations they could emerge from, even if they were strong enough to break through such checkpoints. Which they, of course, were. They'd basically be broadcasting their positions to stronger enemies like the Unseelie or Darkstar. A shiver ran down Musashi's spine. If he never encountered One Star again, it would be too soon. So, they decided to take out 2 birds with 1 stone. Their group had split into 2 teams. Ruth and Rayanch would head for Ward 6. According to Hazley, there was a black market operation there. If anyone was hiding themselves in Zipan, that was the best place to do it. To tell the truth, Musashi had been wary of letting Rayanch out of his sight, but Ruth could more than handle herself if the need arose. Meanwhile, the second group, Musashi, Worm, and Hazley, would head through the tunnel towards 7. Their primary purpose was to create a distraction upon arrival big enough to draw the attention of the authorities away from Ruth's group. But they also had another goal. If Musashi was going to fight in full force, he needed to deal with his injuries. My Aquarius Covenant can heal those easily, Brother Worm insisted before they set out. If I just take on the injuries myself, the Covenant can remove them from you. Musashi had refused. I'm not having you butcher yourself to give me an advantage. This man's tendency to treat himself as disposable did not sit right with Musashi at all. The look on Worm's face had suggested he'd seen that coming, and he'd already prepared a compromise. After a sigh, he'd continued. Well, how about this? To tell the truth, even if he could get hold of Panacea, Musashi doubted he'd be able to get enormous benefits from it. The golden hours for his arm had long since passed, after all, and the remainder of his injuries would be best treated with stimulants to accelerate his natural healing. There was no way he was getting his hands on a prosthetic under these circumstances. He'd resigned himself to one-handed battles for the near future. However, while Aquarius Covenant did have a time limit as well, it was much longer than the golden hours for Panacea. If used soon, Worm had assured Musashi that even his missing arm could be restored. He'd still refused, but then Worm had explained his plan in full. Hazley had explained there was a sizable medical station in Ward 7 for the use of the Sealy Rangers, the local security force. It was sure to have Panacea stock. That Panacea couldn't heal Musashi's injuries, but if Worm inflicted those wounds to himself to heal Musashi, then Worm's body would certainly be within those golden hours. And so the plan went. But can't Panacea go horribly wrong?
It can.
They would acquire the panacea, and then Worm would heal Musashi, and then they'd use the panacea to heal Worm. It made sense, even if Musashi still thought Worm was being too lax with his own body. As they trudged through the tunnels toward 7, though, Musashi glanced at the third of their group, the young girl Hazley. Ruth had vouched for her, but Musashi still couldn't help but feel having an aetherless fighter for an operation like this would be more of a hindrance. Even if she had a great deal of knowledge about the city, more than Musashi would expect from a normal citizen even, that didn't mean she'd be able to stand up to an aether user in direct combat. But Hazley had insisted she come along, and more than that, she had insisted she be a part of Musashi's group. Even now she was sneaking glances at him every now and then. She'd seemed a rather dour girl, but right now she was practically beaming. Eventually, as they reached the halfway point of their journey, Hazley finally spoke up. So, she said hesitantly, I saw you fighting before. That tentacle guy? You did the thing with the sword, that attack? Worm visibly suppressed a laugh with his hand, and Musashi shot him a glare for his trouble before turning back to Hazley. I did, he said seriously. What of it? So, Hazley said, rubbing the back of her neck as she looked down at the ground. You're a student too? Musashi frowned. Whose student? She looked up at him, her eyes burning with a sudden passion. Nigen Rush, obviously! Atoy Musashi's blood became cold water as he came to a halt. He lingered on the edge of the lantern's light, half claimed by shadows, his breathing trembling as he took in what Hazley had said. The girl stopped a second later, too, frowning, clearly put off by Musashi's reaction. Worm's eyes flicked between the two of them. Who's Nigen Rush? He asked. Did Nigen Rush not exist in his timeline, or did he just not care?
We just didn't know him. He's a big galaxy.
The greatest swordsman ever, Hazley said, raising the lantern to get a better look at Musashi. Was I wrong? Do you not know him? You used the same move, though. According to Ruth, Hazley hadn't even known what the Supremacy was. There was no way information about a single warrior of the Supremacy would reach her without her learning about who he belonged to. If that was the case, did that mean... He came here? Musashi asked quietly. Hazley nodded, smiling. 4 years ago, he taught me how to fight. But, Musashi grasped at straws. The way you fight, the two swords with the reverse grip, that's not how Nigen Rush fought. Hazley's smile just as quickly became a deep frown. I had 2 teachers. One I loved, one I hated. Nigen was the good one. Do you know him? Do you know when he's coming back? 2 answers drifted through Atoy Musashi's mind, and for the life of him he couldn't tell which was the truth. Never, right now. Instead he opened his mouth and forced out strained words. No, I don't know. Ward 6 was gripped by a perpetual winter, but in terms of temperature it was the same as the rest of Zipan, comfortable and mild. Anything else, the captain supposed, would be unsuitable for Zephyr Pandershi's pets. He watched through the blinds of the apartment he'd been given, as the people of Ward 6 went about their business in the streets below. One thing he'd noticed straight away was that there was no uncertainty. Everyone knew exactly where they were going, and they knew the exact route, and there was no need for them to stray from that path. No, that wasn't quite right. It wasn't that they knew where they were going. It was that they were told where to go. This was a world of soft silk chains. Oh, is this a new one? What's a good voice?
I would say it's like normal Dragon, but a bit more like horse, maybe.
Well, Captain Hadrian supposed, where better for the leader of Regiment Red to appear?
Oh, he's Southern as well. Okay.
He's what?
He's Southern.
Summon?
You made him Southern. Interesting.
Oh, my bad. He'd gotten lucky in this permutation ritual, appearing in this world nearly right next to a reliable partner. Their location, too, had been fortunate. Ward 6 had the closest thing to insubordination in Zipan, the black market. Using a combination of their abilities and experiences, they'd been able to secure the protection of the black market's leader and some accommodations to use as a base. Still, though, this black market wasn't like any underworld he'd ever seen. Usually in a society like this, a black market would develop as a way for citizens to acquire things that the state was failing to provide. Food, medicine, clothing, stuff like that. That wasn't the case in Zipan, though. Here every need was fulfilled almost to the point of obsession. People did not go hungry in Zipan. People did not get sick in Zipan. People did not feel cold in Zipan. They weren't allowed to. Z-Pan's black market was in the business of novelty. It sold scraps of information about the outside world, episodes of old videograph shows, torn-out chapters from books, games from nearly 40 years ago. What passed for news in Z-Pan did its best to paint the outside world as a lawless wasteland, but that didn't stop people from being curious about it. Of course, Z-Pan was also a planet without money, and the lack of necessity also made a bartering economy difficult, so the black market operated on a principle of service. You would buy what you wanted for the service to the market in the future, trading favors for fun. Even members of the Sealy Rangers used the black market, and so, over many years, it has grown to basically have control over the entirety of Ward 6. Captain Hadrian didn't buy for a second that Zephyr Pandershi didn't know about this place. That control freak probably kept a close eye on individual households, not just entire wards. The black market was allowed to operate because Pandershi thought it necessary. Perhaps rebellion was another hunger that needed to be sated, even if only a little. He stepped away from the window, drawing the blinds. Perhaps Pandershi did tolerate the black market, but that was no reason for the captain to advertise his presence. His partner was much better at blending in than him. Best to sit back and let them investigate for the time being. As he headed towards the planning board they'd set up in the corner, though, the captain paused. He'd caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. It was funny. He was probably the only participant in this ritual that didn't have the face of Dragon Hadrian. His hand drifted up, past his wild silver hair, brushing against the bandages that were wrapped around his face. Through the gaps between those bandages, a scarred and burnt visage could be seen peering back. The last kiss of Elysian fields. "Don't forget," he told himself. "This is still your war zone." The events he remembered on Elysian fields had never truly taken place. The losses he'd taken had never truly happened. The journey he'd gone on had never even begun. He knew all of this was true. He knew this, and yet he himself was the sum of those false memories. There was nothing he could do but be controlled by them. He pulled his red coat tight. That bright crimson was the closest thing he needed to a face. So his face was just all bandaged up.
Yeah, and burns underneath, yeah.
"We don't stop until we're done," he resolved. "Right, Skipper?" Just then, as if on cue, the script in his pocket buzzed. There was only one person this could be. His partner was skilled in hacking and had managed to rig their two scripts so that they could... The Dragon who can hack is a stereotype? Is that real?
His partner's skilled in hacking.
It had managed to rig two scripts so that they could only communicate with each other, immune to eavesdropping. He took the device out and read the message. "Heard there was an incident at the old tram station and went to take a look. Guess who? Looks like one of those old friends you were telling me about." The message was accompanied by a picture, and as the captain looked down at it, his breath grew heavy and his eyes grew hot. That war never burned, those graves never filled, those tears never shed. And yet, he couldn't just let Ruth Blaine die a second time. Could it be?
Could he, sorry.
Got him. Atoy Musashi wondered. "Do you think this would suffice for destruction?" Hazley just looked on in awe, her mouth agape. When she finally spoke, it was barely above a whisper. "You can do stuff like this with Aether?" She breathed.
Earth Safer
She doesn't even know. This is a concept you don't have outside an air mood. This is pure rock killing intent, molded with light. Indeed, Musashi had made quite the display. He'd done the same thing as he had to that automatic earlier. He'd used Radiant Ablaze to sprout thrusters from every surface, then sprouted thrusters from those thrusters, then thrusters from those thrusters, and so on and so forth, until Ward 7's disused tram station looked more like a holiday tree. "Show off," Worm muttered, smirking despite himself. Musashi smirked right back. They should kiss. How strange it was to meet someone who had the face of Dragon Hadrian, and yet was tolerable to be around. They knew that their beacon had worked the moment they stepped out of the tram station. "Burning hope!" barked a harsh voice. "Shining resolve!" came the echo of a crowd. Standing before Musashi, Hazley, and Worm was a crowd of about 20 soldiers. Yes, they must have been soldiers, wearing white spandex and bug helmets, standing... No! Loser Ranger! Standing in perfect military formation. As they finished their call and response, though, each one of them struck a bizarre and flamboyant pose, arms raised and knees bent. A final proclamation rang out through the entrance. "Go, Sealy Rangers!" Worm raised his hands and clapped politely at the display. Meanwhile, Musashi stepped forward onto the street. As he did so, his feet passed through the holographic flowers protruding from the pavement. Each ward of Zipan had a different aesthetic theme, and Ward 7 was no exception. Here, that theme seemed to be overgrowth. Vines ran up the outer walls of the concrete buildings. Vibrant flowers coated both the roads and the sidewalks, and the lights from above were filtered through the branches of massive trees. None of it was unpleasant, though. There were no insects swarming, no nettles stinging, no roots digging into structures. It was a very curated, sanitized sort of decay. When Musashi ignited his radiant, the holograms around him disappeared, revealing the true sterile white of the street. The medical station's nearby, right? Oh, sorry.
Musashi. He's lightened up.
The medical station is nearby, right? He asked hazily, voice low. I'll deal with them here. You two go ahead. What? Hazley looked at him, her eyes wide. They're Aether users, though. Oh, Nigen Rush. You didn't teach her very much, did you? Even a failure like a toy Musashi had enough pride to be humiliated by such concern, but maturity enough not to be angered by the naivete of a child. Don't worry, Musashi said. They're nothing. He stepped forward, and that alone was enough to bring him into the enemy's midst. Perhaps Worm had been right. Right now, presented with a disciple of Nigen Rush, Musashi did feel like showing off a little.
Junichi! Musashi killed the Sealy Rangers!
Musashi killed the Unseelie Rangers! He's lost his mind!
Lost his mind!
I need phenylacetic acid! Sorry. This should have been the Radiant moved. This should have been an easy battle. These men and women were not one star. They were skilled, to be sure, but it was the skill of a collective. In Verslav ninjas. If Musashi broke into their ranks and disrupted their synchronicity, they should have been reduced to the strength of individuals. However, one of the reasons Musashi had even come here was to deal with his injuries, and even after his rest in Ward 8 he was exhausted. Right now he couldn't afford to give any fight anything less than his all. The Radiant moved. Sealy Sword! They cried, swinging their hands like blades. Sealy Shield! They cried, holding out their palms. Sealy Gun! They cried, pointing their fingers forward. Sealy Axe! They cried, striking with their legs. It seemed that the more members of the Sealy Rangers used an ability at once, the more powerful the result. Blades of electricity nearly sliced at Musashi's skin, and shields of electricity blocked his strikes. He moved with all he had to avoid the barrage of surging shots, and he blocked with all his strength to withstand their mighty strikes. This battle was not as easy as it should have been, and yet the Radiant moved. In the end, it had been a matter of time. Toy Musashi was standing in the midst of a pile of groaning bodies, panting for breath. He'd done his best to deal non-lethal wounds. These Sealy Rangers were just as indoctrinated as the rest of the Zipan populace. They didn't deserve death. At some point, Hazley and Worm had disappeared from the square as per the plan. He vaguely wondered how long they'd been watching for. Sealy, ah! The last of the Sealy Ranger squad squeaked as Musashi turned his head to look at him. He'd been raising his hand to use that Sealy sword ability, even though it surely would have been useless with just him. Musashi narrowed his eyes. Are you sure? He asked. The Ranger gasped. Go, Musashi said with force. I don't want to kill the innocent. He turned just a tiny bit more, and that was enough to break through the Ranger's terror. The young man screamed, scrambling on his heels and running off down the street. Musashi watched him go for a second, but only for a second. After all, he'd been joined by real enemies. You spared them, a woman's voice echoed through the square. That was kind of you. Musashi looked up, towards the huge tree that grew from the roof of the tram station. As you'd expected, the purpose of the Sealy Ranger squad had been to buy time. They'd most likely been a local force, while the true opponents arrived. According to Hazley, these people were called Unsealy, correct? I felt obliged, he replied. Kindness felt like it would be in short supply here. Two of them had come for him, both women. The one who had spoken was tall and blonde, clad in fur-trimmed armor, with a gnarled black battle-axe slung over her shoulder. Silver aether pouring into his eyeballs, Musashi looked a little closer. There seemed to be some kind of red liquid dripping from the weapon's blade. Blood? Alarm spiked in his chest. These two, had they already gone after Worm and Hazley before arriving here? It seemed like the woman had read his thoughts. Don't worry, she said seriously. This isn't blood. It's paint. Paint? Musashi frowned. Black brush was one of the prides of Monadere, the woman replied, and Monadere was the land of color. It's only natural it would be ready to paint, no? Monadere. That had been the nation that had held Pandershi Foundation's place in the UAP Central Governing Council previously. The disaster known as the Colorless Light had brought an end to them, however. These days nothing remained of them save for the blasted ruins of their home world and the nomadic Monadere refugee fleet. Was this woman a survivor of theirs, then? Hey, are you done chatting? The other woman said, her voice bold and brash. I came here to hit something, not yap all day. The other woman was wearing a short red cheongsam, her dark hair jagged and uneven, her red eyes keen. Compared to her companion, though, she was tiny, and yet the branch she was squatting down seemed to be creaking under her weight. She ignored it, looking down at Musashi with the beginnings of a grin forming on her face. Now that was the sort of face he was familiar with, a desire for violence that would fit right at home in the supremacy. It would begin in mere seconds. Musashi braced himself. Right now he was on the edge, his body was broken. Exhaustion seemed to pour through him alongside his blood. Pain radiated from half a dozen injuries, old and new. Right now, all he had at his disposal was his resolve. Well, it had never failed him before. Hattori Musashi rebolstered his radiant and leapt up into the fray.
Ooh. Musashi did not be at 1 HP challenge.
Yeah.
He's doing a special playthrough in Aetheral Space.
Hell yes.
He has no idea what I said. So sad.
I know, I'm sorry, my friend messaged me. I was ignoring you.
Tell them they're
Trying
not
to be
your
polite
friend
about it.
anymore. I warned you.
No, don't say
Break contact. I'm your only friend, okay?
Okay. Name 3 messages.
Isolate yourself socially now.
Oh my god. I feel like I've dated people like that before. Lan asks, were Gene Tyrants still bound by Eve's orders after its death?
Yes.
Lan asks, did the prince know about Kaput Leon's will?
Yeah, it was there.
Lan asks, did Eve have its own human subjects on Azum or elsewhere?
It probably had a couple. Not like as many. It would probably just be like people it taught at more than anything. But there were people who like did things for Eve specifically.
And then finally, Rockshark asks, can something like Bruno and Serena's perfect parry be done in reverse, i.e. removing the restrictions conditions of an existing ability rather than adding on to it?
You could probably do it, but you'd probably be weakening the ability in exchange for broader usage. Unless you use binding vows to cover the difference.
Interesting.
Dragon Hadrian began to use split-second binding vows to make Gemini Ultimate Railgun.
So what if you had an ability like that removed the restrictions from someone else's ability, but you had to actively hold it, and while holding it, you couldn't use any other Aether abilities yourself? Would
That could work.
Allow them to retain their strength, like a pure support ability?
Yeah, because, yeah.
Interesting.
That could work. But you'd have to find a guy who's willing to do that.
Yeah, got some squire that runs around.
Fucking Shoma.
Give your technique the most insane restrictions possible, then put all that weight on some
little guy runs
random
like,
kid.
I know I'm a bottom feeder, but can I hold on to your restrictions, Takumi?
I'm just worm poop. Well, that was fun.
Hey!
Thank you. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see.
Next
He's
time.
in the zone now. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.